Maryland freshman looked really promising against Purdue.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. And if you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Maryland freshmen, despite the loss to Purdue, actually, I thought did some really good things. And I'm talking about two guys in particular for Maryland basketball. I actually thought had a pretty good day despite the loss. Obviously, we just saw Maryland basketball get crushed against Purdue. Wasn't a close game at all. And in another game where we didn't look great. It's hard to find very many silver linings, but I've come on here many times and have talked about losses in Maryland basketball, not playing well in different components to the game. But there were two freshmen and one, I guess you would consider a redshirt freshman for Maryland basketball that I thought were very promising in this game against Purdue, against a really solid Purdue team that could win a national championship. Like, I think that Purdue team, preseason number one team in the nation, they've dropped off a little bit, but they're still like a top 15, top 10 team in the country. I'm sure a lot of people would argue it, and definitely have one of the better teams in the Big Ten, like 100%. And I think they're really talented. It was two freshmen for Maryland basketball that came up and played well. And instead of being negative today, I want to find some silver linings. I want to find some things that we can hopefully take into next year that are going to make us better next year, and hopefully kind of improve where we're at as a team and improve our chances on being a kind of a better team for Maryland basketball heading into next year. And we can kind of fix some of the problems. And two guys that have a chance to return next year, two guys that have a chance to be really good next year for Maryland basketball, I thought actually played really good in the loss, despite losing 93-63 to Purdue. Like I said, they're 8-3 in the Big Ten, 18-4 overall. I thought they were really, I thought they played at a really high level. But those two guys were Darius Adams and Andre Mills. Darius Adams, obviously the high-level freshman who we were able to flip from UConn, who a lot of people before the season were excited about. And honestly, he's been about what we've expected. Like, I can't say that I expected Darius Adams to be better or worse than where he's at right now. We knew he had some ability. We knew he had some natural kind of scoring in him. We knew he had the chance to play at a pretty high level for Maryland basketball, and to be a pretty good player. But I think we also knew that he was still kind of raw in certain areas in terms of going into his body, his strength, not necessarily his skill set. He does do a lot of things well in the basketball court, but I do think we still thought he had a little bit of a ways to go. And he's like one of the, like him. And then I would put Andre Mills possibly in that category as well, who played really well. And Pharrell Payne, those three guys, if Pharrell Payne can come back, those three guys are A1, like I want back next year. Three guys that can make our team really solid next year. But I thought Darius Adams arguably had his best game of the year against a really good performance team. But if you told me before the year he averaged 12 points, 4 rebounds, I think we would all be like pretty happy about that for him to be where he's at. And now maybe the team needs him to do more right now, but it's tough on his back to be able to do that. But I thought he had a solid game against Purdue and really kind of was the silver lining in a game that was really bad. I think he started every single game this year, but in 33 minutes, I thought he played pretty decently. I thought he did a lot of good things for Maryland basketball in the game. He had 17 points. He shot the three ball decently, had 2 threes in the game, which is really cool to see as well. And we know he can score. We know he can create his own shot in a Maryland roster that there's not a lot of guys that can do that. It was pretty awesome to finally see somebody be able to do that and somebody have the ability to kind of show up on the offensive side of things. And he definitely moves a little bit different, and you can tell he can shoot the ball. I know he hasn't necessarily shot the ball very well this season, but the reason I really want to see Darius Adams come back is because you can tell that kid has like 18 points in college. Like he easily could make that jump to 18 points per game next year for Maryland basketball. Like I think that's absolutely in the cards. I know he's only shooting 25% from 3-point arc this season, but he's a much better shooter than that. 33% from the field. He's a much better player than that. And I think if he comes back next year, you could see him get stronger, get a little more physical. And if he continues kind of developing that bag, quote unquote, and being able to get his shots offensively, I think the sky's the limit for where Darius Adams can be as a sophomore. Now, we have to get him back. We cannot let the kid enter the portal because there will be teams that will be all over him. But what he's doing as a freshman, I think, like, obviously we see some of these guys getting drafted, but for him, he's going to have the chance to be at Maryland for a while, and that's one of the things Buzz Williams needs to be able to do. He's able to retain a kid like that who played really well despite us losing the game, and we can be all negative, but I thought he was our best scorer, arguably, yesterday. I was forgetting what day the game was on because I'm so used to playing on a Saturday. I was like, the Saturday game? No, Sunday game against Purdue. I thought he did some really good things. And then the other kid that I've been kind of mixed on, I can't figure him out. Andre Mills had himself a day. 18 points, 5 of 10 from the field, 2 of 4 from the 3-point arc, 6 rebounds as well, and 3 assists. I like Andre Mills. I think he's another guy that we need to try and get back next year. I'm not positive he's a starter next year. I think there's a chance of that if he continues to grow offensively. But, man, he can be a really good off-the-bench piece, if not a starter next year for Maryland basketball. Just a guy that physically, like his athleticism and some of his traits that he has is really good. And I feel like he doesn't even know like how talented he is yet, because he can be as good as really anyone on the team. Like I really believe that. I just don't know how natural of an offensive player he is, but sometimes he has these games where he proves that it's like, oh wow, he does some things where you're like, dang, 18 points, and he's also shooting the 3-ball decently well. It was a new career high and season high for Mills. His athleticism is just different. It is just different, and it's something that not a lot of players have, and his ability to get to the rim because of that and also be a really good rebounding guard allows him to be a really good option next year to go along with Darius Adams as guys that you absolutely want back on this team because there's a lot of guys that just can't come back on this team, whether it's Elijah, whether it's Solomon. There's guys that can't come back, and to me, Andre Mills is a guy that we're absolutely he's starting to become a guy that we're really going to want back, who can really help Maryland basketball. He also is unselfish. He has the ability to be a high-level defender. I can't say I've focused on him individually as a defender because Maryland as a team hasn't been good as on defense, but I think he does have the chance to be arguably our best defender, our best defending guard heading into next year, and compete to play. Like I can absolutely see a world if we don't, depending on what transfers we bring in, I can absolutely see a role where Andre Mills is pretty good next year, starting next to Darius Adams, maybe the house kid at point guard, something like that. And then hopefully you get Pharrell Payne back and Baba in the lineup as well. And that's a pretty good starting 5 in my opinion. But he shows these flashes where I'm like, okay, this kid can be pretty good, And so him and Darius Adams together are just 2 guys we're going to want back next year for Maryland basketball. 2 guys that can absolutely help us and absolutely help the trajectory of Maryland basketball and getting us to where we need to be. So I would love to see those guys come back for Maryland basketball. I would love to see us have more of that because I think they're really good and I think they have that type of potential for Maryland basketball. But we'll see what ends up happening heading into the off season. But that's kind of what I want to get into next. I want to talk about what the heck is next for Maryland basketball. The tournament's out the window. There's different, like the Big Ten tournament doesn't even look great. Like there's different things that are out the window. So what the heck is next for Maryland basketball? We'll talk about that next. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel's making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's a perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. And if you're a new customer, you can bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl season is over, it's a last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. But don't forget, there's so many different things you can bet on FanDuel, whether it's the NBA, college basketball. There's so many different things. You guys have to visit FanDuel.com to get started. So what's next for Maryland basketball? I think there's a couple different things. Obviously, we're going to have to finish out the year right. And I want to talk more about the guys, the young guys kind of for Maryland basketball that we're all kind of excited about that have been playing pretty well. I think Darius Adams falls into that boat, as well as Andre Mills. I think Alex Austin, who's been up and down, not really, just has had a limited role, I'll say. He's also another guy that falls into that boat. George Turkson falls into the boat. I want to kind of focus on the guys. Del Pino falls in that boat. The guys that potentially could be back next year, instead of like kind of like I think you guys are becoming uninterested in just the basic gameplay. You want to hear about stuff that kind of more matters. And so for me personally, I want to talk about the young guys, but I think also for Buzz Williams, you got to start favoring some of those guys in terms of playing times, in terms of how many shots those guys are getting. Like, I know the end goal is to win, but we need, like, for the betterment of this program, we need a guy like Darius Adams to come back. We need guys like Alex Austin to come back. We need some of these guys to be able to come back if we want to be able to take the step to become where we want to be next year and not have to solely rely on the portal. Andre Mills is included in that too. Maybe Pharrell Payne if he's able to get another year in redshirt. Like, we need some of these players to be able to come back and play for Maryland basketball again, and that only happens if they feel like they have a big enough role, if they feel like they have enough kind of leeway going into next year and feel like they can actually make another jump heading into their sophomore year for most of them. I think that's important for Maryland basketball. I know you don't ever want to, it's kind of like that NBA. Maybe I'm too practical and think more about like the long-term effects that actually matter. But, it's kind of like, it's not tanking, but like, it's like, all right, let's give Darius Adams some looks. Let's give him some shots. Andre Mills, if he starts the rest of the season, I'm not mad at it. He started at the beginning of the season. I'm not mad at it if he starts the rest of the season. I think it just can make sense. And you got to focus on development and those guys getting better, because when you look at the roster, some of these guys you can be excited about, but a lot of these guys are just going to be gone. Solomon Washington, Elijah Sanders, Diggy Coit, Miles Rice, a lot of these guys, Watts, Metcalf, a lot of these guys are just going to be gone next year. And if we don't be staring into a blank room with only a freshman class coming in, I think we need some of that support from some of the to give those younger guys a little bit of a bigger role. And so that's what I would do if I was Buzz Williams. I know that's not necessarily what he'll end up doing, or I don't know if that's really in his wheelhouse or something he would do. But personally, that's what I would do. And I think that's what's kind of best for Maryland basketball. I'm curious kind of what you guys would think, but you also want to finish the year strong. You still have a bunch of winnable games to end the year. The schedule definitely lightens up. Like you play Ohio State on Thursday. Like I think they're solid, but they're nothing special. Minnesota, same thing. They're like okay. Iowa, same exact thing. Rutgers, Northwestern, Washington. Like that's such a winnable stretch. And then you play Nebraska, who's been pretty good, but they've started to falter a little bit and started to take some loss. And then you have Rutgers, Wisconsin, then Illinois to end the year. Like that's a winnable schedule to end the year. And I think I would think our fans would like to see us in the Big Ten tournament. It's another game to watch, to see kind of what Maryland basketball can put up. I know we're not necessarily like we know we're not going to win it, or we know we're not going to go to the dance unless we win it, and we're not going to win it. But I think people would be excited to see us potentially just playing somebody kind of good in the Big Ten tournament and being on that stage and get a little tiny tad taste of March basketball that everyone gets excited about. Everyone gets excited about the tournament. Like, how cool was it last year when Derek Queen hit the buzzer beater, or Maryland was making their run in the Big Ten tourney, and we thought maybe this team could win it all in the Big Ten tournament? Like, that was pretty cool. And so I think allowing us to be able to have that opportunity, I think would be big for Maryland basketball. So that's something else that I would love to see Maryland basketball be able to do, and just figure out how to end the year right. You're playing some of the bottom teams in the Big Ten standings, and teams that haven't been great traditionally and haven't been great this year. So I think that's something else that Maryland basketball could do to potentially kind of, I don't know, cancel out some of the bad that's been on this year. I know that doesn't cancel it out, but yeah, like you play Rutgers, who's at the bottom of the league. Like you play Northwestern, you play Minnesota, you play Washington, you play Ohio State, like all teams that aren't necessarily like high in the league. So I think that could be a unique opportunity for Maryland basketball to be able to kind of get back and to do some things. And I think that's kind of what's next. I think something else is after this season, but also just this season, Buzz Williams got to do some reflecting, got to do some figuring out, especially some of this offensive stuff. I saw a really cool quote. I forget what coach. I want to say it was Dan Hurley. It was a video of him talking with another coach who's like, I stopped recruiting guys that I thought were that he thought was going to bring really good energy, that had some athletic talent, and they were good defensively, they were raw offensively. They didn't really have it figured out offensively in high school, but they were raw kind of talents, but they excelled defensively and hustling. He said he stopped recruiting those guys because those guys just don't usually develop into the offensive players that you need. You got to recruit guys that can score the rock. And I think Buzz Williams kind of can get caught up in that. And I don't want this Maryland. I think it's like our identity, and Buzz Williams' identity is like play good defense and like rebound and like things like that. And I don't want to get too caught up in like the old school basketball. And I think Buzz Williams kind of does that a little bit. I don't want to be that type of team. Like, I don't want to be the Steelers of college basketball where we can't really score. We can't really make shots, but we can defend at a decently high level, because we're just going to get smoked and we're going to lose to teams with decent offense, as we saw in the Purdue game. And so far, Buzz hasn't even been good defensively. Like, we gave up 93 points to Purdue. Like, that ain't good enough. Like, Fletcher Lawyer, we all know the scout on him, and he still shoots 7 to 10 from the three-point line. Braden Smith, 4 or 6 from the three-point line. Like, there's not like much in the game plan that I'm like is working. And some of it can't just be on the players. It has to come from up top. And so I think what's next for Buzz Williams is he's got to reflect and get better, because this year has been highly discouraging, and it just doesn't look good. So we'll see what ends up happening, but I think it has to be better for Maryland basketball. Let's talk a little bit about 5-star talent for Maryland basketball that could be on his way. We've talked about it a little bit, but let's get into it a little bit more. This is Mazda moving the game forward. And for those who show there's more to score than what's on the screen, I'm going to highlight Darius Adams, the kid that I just talked about. He's been trying to raise the bar for Maryland basketball. He's definitely put in a ton of extra work off the court, and he's been dialing in every detail, giving in that extra fire, that grit. And he's been showing that never quit despite Maryland basketball not being that good. And Mazda puts the same passion into every model. Highlights make the real. What it took to get there makes it count. And there's more to Mazda, and just like Darius Adams, because there is more to you. So Maryland basketball has still been in the mix for this five-star talent in the 2027 class. And I kind of want to highlight this by saying I'm not concerned at all about Buzz Williams recruiting. He's honestly done a really good job recruiting for Maryland basketball. Like our 2025 class and 2026 class were really good. Like 2025 class, for just getting there, I thought Buzz Williams did a really good job with that class and getting it to kind of where we needed it to be able to keep Maryland basketball on track despite having a room that was completely empty. And I thought Maryland's 2026 class, it's number 4 in the nation for a reason. I still have concerns about it, like us depending on that class to just come in and fix all the problems that we have and figuring it all out just based off of that class. But that class is a really solid foundation and has some really good pieces of what they can kind of become. But this kid in the 2027 class, Obina Ezeki Jr., has the opportunity to be, according to the rankings, I haven't been able to see a ton of what he's put together on the court. I've seen some flashes and some highlights, but has a chance to be the best Maryland recruit like ever when you look at the rankings. He's ranked as a 5-star, number 2 ranked player on the composite ranking, number 3 on the player ratings, according to 247. Goes to Southeastern Prep. It's one of those prep schools in Orlando, Florida, which is interesting. And his dad played at the University of Maryland. So that's kind of the big connection to Maryland and why Maryland's warm. And he was selected 37th overall in the 1999 NBA draft. So that's kind of what brings him to Maryland and why a lot of people think Maryland actually could be the school for this kid, which makes sense. He has every offer in the book. If he doesn't, he's going to have every offer in the book. I know that he's already been offered by a lot of big-time schools like Michigan, UNC, Georgetown, obviously the local one, Villanova. Like there's been plenty, Alabama, Auburn, like all those schools are going to offer him. He's arguably the best player in the class, Kansas, Kentucky, like all those schools are offering him. And I think this is a guy, if we're able to land again, proves that I don't know what kind of switch we have taken or if it's just luck, but Maryland basketball can recruit. They can recruit with really anybody, and they can put the pieces together for to make this thing work and to make this thing go for Maryland basketball. And I think it's going to come down to Buzz Williams coaching, and I'm not convinced. I am not convinced at all. We'll see what he gets up to next year, and I think that's all we want to see, and I'm ready. Like, I kind of want to fast forward because I'm excited. Like, I'm tired of – like, last year was really cool because it felt like a team that we actually had the opportunity to win it all. And this year, it's just slow. There's not a lot going on, and football and basketball. Like, I'm tired of watching teams that aren't very good, and getting a kid like this – I think can absolutely help with that. A kid that's a freak, a kid that's a 5-star. Like it's a little bit early for those 2027s, but a kid that has a chance to be as good as anybody in that class, 7-footer at a position where we need size right now as a program. I know that's going to be a completely different team then, but that's something to look at and something that I'm kind of excited for to see what could potentially happen for Maryland basketball there. But we'll see what ends up happening. But that's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.